Let's see how gacha PvP is doing. Yep, we're right where we should be. I can't wait to spend $20,000 on the next units so we can stay ahead of all the trash. I know that might be sarcasm, but don't say I didn't try to give Genshin its flowers. I did say there were good things about the game, but soon Genshin Impact is going to get to the point where characters might as well have an expiration date on them. Genshin Impact is the model for the gacha industry, no matter how much you love it or hate it, so whatever they do, everyone else will follow. In fact, this would be the perfect time for the Genshin Impact dev team to get their shit together, because for once, it seems like the interest for WUWA is pretty low, at least in the media. So let's ask ourselves a question. How does Genshin Impact capitalize off of the interest for their biggest competitor being this low? By requiring you to skip rent once a month when your favorite character's partner comes out? Oh, wait, don't worry. You can pull a C1 to make him viable without this robot that nobody wanted. So that's right. For all of you that forgot to theorycraft that an FO would be required for a DPS that was coming out in the future, all you have to do is pull for an extra copy of him. No big deal, right? And you might as well go for that weapon while you're at it. Oh, and I'm not done yet. He needs a Nodcry unit too. With the Wuthering Waves being on its back foot recently, this game has had a serious chance to earn back some of their audience. But the devs refuse to address some of the aging problems in this game. Genshin used to get so much praise for its 4-star roster, and it was well deserved. Kudrosara used to be a great 4-star option for Raiden, if not the best back in the day, but it doesn't matter because the Archon got power crept into oblivion. And we don't want to buff Archons because then how are we going to sell this random character we've never heard of up until a month ago? And the worst part about 4-stars not having pity is that Genshin will probably never change this because they might make even more money off of this than they do the 5-stars. Really dedicated players are going to continue to pull on a banner even after they get that limited 5-star because certain team compositions need a C6 4-star character. It's no coincidence that some of the most recent ones, being Chevreuse and Yansan, are pivotal in certain team comps. Genshin is about to get into a problem that Star Rail has had for years: a vertical investment dumpster fire. C1s are already extremely powerful, or even just fixed character restrictions. I first noticed it whenever Natlin first came out with Mualani. I got 2 in my first 10 pull, by the way. But I was like 30 pity. Let's go. No way! But her C1 is an absolute game changer in not only damage, but exploration QOL. The overpowered C1s started even earlier than that when Nuvalet released. And a character like Chiori literally has her kit fixed by her C1. If you have realized how crazy the damage increases and now even the QOL enhancements are that these new constellations get, and you see these new constellations having bigger incentives to pull also because of level 100, I'm sure you can see where this is going. Genshin and HSR have been bouncing predatory ideas off of each other for a while now. HSR has ridiculous power creep and HP inflation. Genshin completely blows up 4 years of balance on January 1st, 2025. Genshin introduces a useless whale endgame mode. HSR releases anomaly arbitrage. HSR creates characters that literally require their eidolons to last longer than a month. Do you see where I'm going with this? Speaking of shit that nobody asked for, is anyone excited for user-generated content?
Crazy made it, where you at?
Is you, bro?
Now, granted that the UGC is a legitimate sandbox mode, this could be pretty good for Genshin. But let me ask you a question. Would you rather user-generated content or Genshin Impact solving 90% of its problems right now? Exactly. People play this game for what they've been seeing for 5 years. Well, you're being so negative. Why can't you just give them some credit? Because Genshin can solve most of their problems right now in one update. You're telling me that they can't update the resin bank and get rid of condensed resin, get rid of encounter points, make all domains open all the time, remove stamina outside of combat, give pity to 4-stars, buff older units, and add artifact loadouts? I didn't even get to all of it, but I just think it's interesting how they had all this time to make a whole sandbox mode and they can't click a couple of buttons to make the game 50% better. Anyways, regardless of that, the UGC does look pretty interesting. What this tells me is that they look at themselves like a Fortnite who knew they couldn't live off of the hype of their release forever, so they created more avenues to experience their game. They've actually had a lot of success with it, considering a lot of the younger generation picked up Fortnite in recent years. But the difference between a game like that and Genshin is that dev team listens, maybe a little too much. So given that the UGC isn't brutally monetized like the main game, then we could be looking at something that could breathe new life into Genshin. And I'm sorry for saying ZZZ had the worst boss design I've ever seen, because that title might actually have to go to Genshin Impact. Do I need to remind you that there was a tutorial on how to climb these abyss pillars without Natlan units?
Bruh. Bruh.
No! Fear Magneto! They were making you do tech that you had to go research in order to interact with the game mechanic. It's already bad enough that they've created artificial difficulty in the Spiral Abyss, but their ideas for a quote-unquote new endgame haven't aged well. In fact, the Imaginarium Theater recently just got updated, and sadly, they forgot to just remove the entire game mode. Instead, they decided to add a new mode with my new least favorite word, lunar. And anytime anything endgame related is added into Genshin at this point, you should know to brace for impact, because it's about to be complete bullshit. Compared to the previous hardest mode, Visionary, you need to use 6 more characters on top of what was already required, which has us at 28 units required. And then if you want extra stat buffs, you're looking at 32 units you need to own. So you know what that means. In a couple years, they'll require you to have the whole goddamn roster to even walk into the theater. By the way, this isn't even talking about the elemental restrictions yet, because remember in the Imaginarium Theater, you can only use characters from a certain element. It would be great if there was actually more of an incentive to pull older units, or just getting more pulls in general. And remember, a good build takes weeks or even months to get. Even if you spend thousands on this game and you have characters already built to challenge this mode, there are still restrictions like boss mechanics being completely RNG. At least make the end result easy for people who are funding Nexus Anima for you. They need to make an end game that free-to-plays can access instead of just a race against the timer. Oh, did I mention we need more pulls? It's funny that people say you don't need certain characters to make other units work, but they also don't understand that as the damage ceiling gets higher, that literally becomes the case. These new DPS characters come out with actual incomplete kits that can only be completed with their partner. Do you realize that at the rate Genshin is moving now, Mawika will get power crept fairly soon? I know, it sounds crazy, but it will happen, especially when Columbina is finally released. Considering how well Mawika did, why don't they just do it all over again? Columbina will be the best character in the game by shattering the damage ceiling. She'll only want Nodcry characters on her team, and she'll be released alongside her partner. This isn't even theory crafting either. It's just common sense, because that's how they've found the most success. And I'm sure if you're a dedicated free-to-play, you'll let me know if I'm wrong, because I know you look at leaks. I'm not blaming you, because you literally have to in order to plan your pulls, but you shouldn't have to do that in order to be able to clear endgame content. Genshin Impact has had a pretty good story recently, but the storytelling is still awful, and I don't think they'll budge when it comes to that. This is pretty much just a story game for a free-to-play at this point, because they refuse to fix basic problems that could be solved in 5 minutes. The Nodcry plot can only carry them so far, so I'm sure they'll stretch out Nodcry and Snezhnaya as long as possible to nickel and dime you for as many years as possible. There is still a ton of characters that people have been waiting on for years, like the Tsaritsa, who they will hold over your head for years to come. The normal reaction to seeing a character that you like in a story is wanting to use one of those characters for yourself. Don't lie to yourself. Maybe Genshin has conditioned you to quote unquote not want a character, but if you're free to play, most of the time that's just because you can't get that unit. Genshin has had the tools to create a long-lasting game, and now more than ever is a perfect time to deliver. The first of the new generation of gacha games are close to release, and Hoyo might miss their window to retain a large chunk of their player base. I could see Azure Permilia. Wait, actually, I don't know if I even want to talk about this game because most of the clips have chibi characters. Actually, you know what? Editor, keep that shit in there. Just keep it in there. Anyways, I see this title appealing to a lot of the Genshin audience due to the aesthetic, especially if they don't monetize the Pokeballs or whatever the capturing devices are called. If that game doesn't interest you at all, I don't blame you. But Do at Night Abyss comes out very soon, and even if you don't like games like this, I encourage you to at least try it, because if you love gacha games, you do not want Hoyoverse holding a monopoly in this market for the next 5 years, because every single game that comes out in the future will have to give in to the predatory model that they push in their titles. Okay, this is a good one. Your word of the day is woowa. I have a video representation instead of a definition today.
Rambling. But if most plants are perfectly content to stay in one place, why does the tumbleweed hit the open road?
So let me know what gacha game you play. Thank you so much for watching this far if you have. I feel like I'm missing something. Don't I usually say something else right now?